Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video, and today I bring to you my choices for the hardest weapons to use in each class. Now if you end up finding this video helpful or enjoyable, then I'd genuinely appreciate if you could take that split second to hit the like button. With that being said, this is my follow up to the easiest weapons to use for each class, which I'll link to in the description if you haven't already seen it, and man did I suffer for this one at times. So we'll begin with what you've been seeing on screen so far, which is the Model 10A Slug for the Assault class. Now remember here that all my picks, including this one, are my opinion. You have the right to disagree of course, and it's the hardest weapon to use, not necessarily the worst. A skill gap can make something hard to use but potentially very powerful. So here, I considered the MP18 Experimental for this slot, but once you got used to the trigger tapping, it behaves so much like a standard MP18 that it really isn't that challenging. The Model 10A Slug takes the top spot for me as it requires some form of precision, which for a shotgun is kind of strange, and if you miss your shot, then you're likely dead. If you miss 2 or 3 shots, then you're almost certainly dead. It's a complete risk-reward weapon. It can pull off some crazy kills, but it can also make you look completely stupid. A very able user can do serious work with a slug, but that's just the point. It usually takes a very able user. Give this to your average player, and they'll likely say no thanks pretty quickly and go back to their Model 10A Hunter, Hellriegel, or whatever it may be. The thing that currently makes the slug viable is the strong auto-rotation in the game, or at least on console, which pulls you to the target. Turn this off, or play on PC, and the difficulty just jumped up again. And with DICE seemingly being interested in reducing auto-rotation anyway, well this thing is only going to become harder to use as standard if that's the case. Next up we have the Medic class, and I've gone for the Selbstlader 1906 Factory. Now the Medic class is pretty stacked for weapons. Nothing is particularly weak I would say, and it has some extremely strong options. For this pick I also considered the RSC or a rifle with a scope, but the Selbstlader 1906 Factory takes it for me because the RSC has the potential to two-shot people, is a monster at range, and has one more bullet available per reload than the 1906. All the scoped variants also have great range capabilities, including the Selbstlader 1906 Sniper. The Factory variant has no scope, has just 5 bullets per reload, and has that damn flippy thing that pops up every time you fire. Yes, the weapon can be absolutely lethal, but again that's the point. It's a skill cannon. It can drop an enemy extremely quickly if used correctly, and that's pretty much it. Plus the reload doesn't seem all that quick for a weapon that empties its rounds so often. Overall it's going to be a beast for a good player with the right skill set if used exactly how it should be, but for anyone else it'll likely be an exercise in frustration. Moving on, we have the support class with the BAR M1918 Telescopic, and this one was painful for me, at least to begin with. I've chosen this weapon as it just doesn't make sense to me. The BAR is dominant at close range, so why on earth it needs a telescopic sight is completely beyond me. It seems to be encouraging you to use its main weakness. Yes, this variant has more accuracy and control than the Storm and the Trench variants, but the other LMGs with range sights do such a better job and have far more than just the 20 bullets available. It's just a complete dichotomy. It loses some of its ease of use at close quarters, while still not being particularly fantastic at range. I eventually had the most success by dropping the magnification down to the lowest possible, which did help it to feel more stable and allowed me to compete at close quarters again, and I actually started to do quite well with it, but realistically I could have just done what I was doing far more easily with any number of other LMGs. So finally we have the Scout class, and this probably won't be of any surprise to most of you. It's the M1903 Experimental. Yep, the scout weapon that fires pistol ammo. I've used this weapon before in my PTFO Scout build, which I'll also link to in the description, and it's a decent option for anyone who doesn't like using a conventional scout weapon or who just wants another way to play the scout. You can run and gun to a certain extent while still having your spotting flares, for example, but nobody is going to tell you that it's an objectively good weapon, because it isn't. It's like using an especially weak medic rifle with sights that you can't really see through very well. It requires quite a lot of shots to put someone down, and it just feels outmatched the vast majority of the time. I mean, some pistols can get the better of this thing fairly consistently. It's just not a good weapon, and if you want a challenge, throw this on with the Calibri and drown in your own tears. And those are my picks for the hardest weapons to use for each class. My top pick is the M1903 Experimental because it just feels so weak. The Model 10 Slug and the Selbstlader 1906 Factory can be lethal in the right hands, and the BAR Telescopic is just meh. But this is just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Feel free to like, favorite, and subscribe. I'm GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters.